welcome to episode number 24 of 2025. Hard to believe we made it another year, and yet here we are. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Sascha PISCOPOD, and you are tuned into the PISCOPOD. Like I said, we are at the end of 2025 here. We got Christmas coming up here in a couple of days. And this is the last show for me of the year. I will be on holidays until the week of January 5th. So I'll be back. That would be around I guess it's the 9th or the 10th. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. I do appreciate the support that you've given me since I've launched this thing. There's been lots of positive feedback on it. And I was really hoping today that I could end the year on a positive note, but it doesn't seem to be panning out that way for us. There's, we're still living in crazy times. I was going to cover a bit of the ongoing Charlie Kirk, Candace Owen assassination saga. Where do you want to start with that? It's getting crazier and crazier as we're going along. The feds, Alex Jones came out recently, and he's all concerned about Candace Owens. He's concerned about her well-being. And, kind of funny that guy is coming out now, concerned about Candace Owens and conspiracy theories from Alex Jones is like, Jeffrey Dahmer coming out and being concerned about eating human flesh. Anyway, but he's come out and he's all concerned about her. He would be a prime target for the feds to get him on board to further their agenda and further the narrative. I think he was successfully sued for, $1 billion on the Sandy Hook thing that he was broadcasting. So he'd be a prime candidate to get on board with the feds to kind of knock that down, or maybe even wipe that $1 billion debt out completely in order for him to start being a propagandist for the feds. So just to recap, the Charlie Kirk thing, let's be honest, it doesn't pass the smell test. The feds are still on board. They're trying to get us to believe that a furry chasing homosexual grabbed his grandfather's rifle, who his own mother said she'd never seen him with. But he managed to, in front of 3,000 people, get onto a roof undetected, assemble the rifle, crack off a perfect shot, even though the trajectory from his vantage point, you couldn't really see Charlie's neck, according to ballistics experts. But they're still trying to sell the narrative that he managed to get on the roof undetected, crack off a perfect shot, disassemble the rifle, change his clothes, jump off the roof, and undetected get into, they call it a wooded area. It's really more or less like a large median, if you will, in between lanes of traffic and houses. But, managed to crack off that perfect shot and assembled the rifle. Bubble wrapped it basically for the authorities to find, and then went on a long text message to his furry friend using law enforcement vernacular to give a detailed description of exactly how he carried it off and how he accomplished it. So that's what they're still trying to get us to sell. Turning Point USA, they're all on board with that narrative, even though, let's be honest, Candace Owens has brought the goods to numerous lies of Turning Point USA employees, from Erica Kirk, Mike McCoy, Rob McCoy, Andrew Colvett, Tyler Boyer, Blake Neff. They've all been caught in multiple lies. Rob McCoy was, right after the assassination, was talking about how his son called him and, when he seen his son in the hospital, was covered in blood. That was a lie, right? The footage clearly shows, the amazing Mikey McCoy was nowhere near Charlie McCoy when the shots rang out, and certainly wasn't covered in blood by any stretch of the imagination, because as soon as the shots rang out, he was on the phone headed the other way, right? So, as brave as he was, it really doesn't pass the smell test. Also, the grieving widow herself, She's, everybody grieves in their own way. I'm certain of that, right? But let's be honest with one another here. Am I the only one that gets these creepy, weird vibes off of this woman? She's been on the tissue tour now ever since Charlie's been shot. Where's her kids, right? Her kids, her poor children losing their dad are at home grieving and dealing with it, whether they're with nannies or whether they're with family or whatever the case is. It's certainly an odd thing to have the mother of the children on constant PR tours and, siphoning money and asking for handouts in order to keep this money machine going. What other lies, were we told? The security guys that literally were standing on, the chair that Charlie got blown out of in order to remove cameras and SD cards from the cameras because the police requested that, which again turned out to be a lie. They were caught lying about Charlie's apprehension and continuing supporting Israel. That was another lie that they've been caught in. Tyler Boyer lying. But Candace is the crazy one. She's bringing the receipts. If you guys have watched her most recent show, she brought a guy on board that had some interesting information. Most of it was vetted as to be accurate, but the bullet points on that is that this guy swears that he's 99% sure that he's seen Erica Kirk in the lobby of the Fort Watuka in the hotel the same time that he's seen Charlie Kirk's head of security coming out of a meeting with some high-ranking officers. Military aircraft in the area. Flight-aware data confirms that is all true. The day of Charlie Kirk's assassination, the head of his security said that, there was, it was like a no-fly zone and there was no drones. Meanwhile, Flight-aware app shows clearly that there was numerous military planes in the area, including an American military jet, a Bombardier 6500, that was specifically designed to deploy and retrieve drones. And let's not forget about the, the numerous video footage and stuff like that of people that were on the ground at Charlie Kirk's speaking event that said that they seen drones and that actually filmed drones. And it's just one big lie after another. And you can tell that Candace is over the target, I think, because of the onslaught of attacks that are happening. If you watched the Amfest circus the other day, we had that, greasy little heeb there, Ben Shapiro. He's magically, Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro, they were not friends. By all indications, Charlie Kirk really did not like Ben Shapiro. And now all of a sudden, he's one of the head speakers at the Amfest event. It just doesn't pass this smell test. From the Egyptian planes that are flying back and forth to Israel, to the dozens and dozens of Israeli-tracked phones that were at the Utah campus during the speaking event, phones that were registered in the state of Israel. At first, people thought that, maybe it was international students, but upon checking that's not the case either. And there was Turning Point USA staff members that were getting into physical altercations with the crowd that was at the Turning Point speaking event on the Utah campus. These people, they wanted to get in front of the cameras and tell everybody what they had seen and experienced in real time. And Turning Point USA staff, they were hell-bent on making sure that didn't happen. And the guests that they did, or the speakers that they did trot out in front of the news cameras after the shots were fired, again, was proven to be at least suspicious, at least very, very suspicious. And people were reporting during the event that they were having trouble phoning out and getting a Wi-Fi signal. So it just kind of coincides with the narrative of these military planes with the drones that have scrambling capabilities. It just makes sense. But They're trying to make us believe that, oh, if you follow Candace Owens, you're fucking crazy, and you should be you should be following the narrative of the admitted liar Kash Patel. Again, he just gives me the creepy vibes, as well as the head of the FBI and stuff like that in charge of this investigation. So basically, in the course of 36 hours, they had this entire investigation buttoned down, from how it happened, when it happened, who did it, and everything that transpired before and after. We're supposed to forget that his furry homosexual lover just up and disappeared, just dropped off the face of the earth. The footage or the news coverage in regards to the event is also very, very suspect. I mean, unless you've been living under a rock, you heard about Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle getting killed allegedly by their schizophrenic son, Nick, I believe is his name, Nicholas. Anyway, since that has happened, my news feed, my television feed, my YouTube feed, everything is non-stop Rob Reiner murder. Rob and Michelle Reiner murder, if you will. Non-stop. Everything from, what Nick was wearing at the Conan O'Brien's Christmas party, to the fight that they got into, to his drug troubles in the past, to verbal altercations that were caught on tape or on cell phone cameras. All of that shit has just been flooding my feeds and my social media. And, when we talk about the Charlie Kirk assassination, arguably one of the biggest political assassinations since JFK, there's literally crickets. Crickets. You don't see nothing. What happened to Tyler Robinson's furry lover? Just dropped off the face of the earth. Tyler Robinson, he admitted his guilt and turned himself in. Conveniently, the footage of him turning himself in is lost. And leaked information from within the police department has officers that were part and parcel of what happened that day, said that it was clearly a weird scenario once the feds got there. They were instructed not to look at this guy when he came in, not to talk to this guy when he came in. It just doesn't pass the smell test, folks. It doesn't to me, and I'm sure everybody out here that's listening to this shit is saying the same thing. The very highly trained and expensive bomb-sniffing dogs that are trained to sniff gunpowder residue and bombs, bomb-making materials, C4s, gunpowder, dynamite, anything like that. Highly trained noses on these animals, right? They searched the area, came up with nothing. The feds show up, the feds show up to the scene, talking to all the cops, the local cops on the scene. Oh, how long have you been on the force, How long have you been on the force? Oh, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Small talk, it sounds like, right? But then they grab three guys that between the three of them haven't been on the force a year and a half yet, or a year, whatever the report was, and ushered them to go check that area again. The dogs cleared it, but go check that area again. And lo and behold, these three rookie cops, they find the murder weapon fully assembled again, and basically, just laying in the open for them to stumble across, right? So we're supposed to believe that narrative, right? And to me, it just doesn't pass this bloody smell test. It certainly doesn't. So, like I said at the top of the show here, I wanted to end the year with something positive. There are lots of things to be thankful for. I'm thankful for my followers. You guys rock. I'm thankful for the feedback that I'm getting. I'm thankful for my family, for my friends, for the meatballs that are upstairs waiting for me to come outside and chuck the ball around. I'm thankful for all that. But I'll be honest with you when I say that I'm concerned for our future. Our Western civilization is under attack, and that's kind of what I'm going to end the show on today, is I want to talk about how our Western civilization is under attack. I recently spoke with friends that are living in Germany, Berlin to be exact, And I seen something on my socials this morning about Christmas market or a Christmas celebrations that were happening in Berlin where thousands, and I'll post the footage on my Facebook feed, but it was thousands upon thousands upon thousands of Islamists waving Palestinian flags and chanting their, aloha snack bar bullshit. They literally stormed the place and disrupted it. Places like France, Australia, they've already canceled their Christmas and New Year's events due to safety concerns because they have credible information that attacks are going to happen. Here in Canada, another church is burnt down. The name of the place escapes me. It was in BC, something lake. But yeah, another church is burnt down. And, it's under suspicious circumstances, but they're investigating it. And it's like, really? Is it really suspicious circumstances that we got going on? Or have we been fully invaded, and governments, whether you're in the United States or whether you're in Australia or whether you're in Germany or whether you're here in Canada, our government is complicit into what's going on. And, again, I can't call for violence, right? Because it'll get me into trouble and, possibly arrested. But I'm telling you, folks, we need to lace up our boots, man, and start doing something. Danielle Smith, our premier here in Alberta, is trying her best to, she's going to be passing some new legislation that we have our own kind of stranglehold on immigration and what we got going on here, which is a good thing. That's a positive thing, going in the positive direction. But, we've been invaded, folks, and there's no two ways about it. When we can't go to church and pray without fear of getting shot up or getting arrested because it's hate speech. Our mayor here in Calgary, the fuckwit Farkas, I call him, he was on this big diatribe on TV about talking about the rise of anti-Semitism. And, let's be honest with one another. The reason for anti-Semitism, in my opinion, is the behavior of the Jews and what they're doing in the world. They're displacing thousands of people, murdering hundreds of thousands of people. These people are fleeing these war-torn areas into our country, into the United States, into Europe. Europe, in my opinion, is all but over. Unless we see some brave men and women in Germany. I've lost hope for France. But, unless we see some very brave men and women in places like Germany that basically arm themselves and start taking the law into their own hands. I'm urging my Canadian brethren here in Canada to do the same thing. We are being invaded. It's plain and simple. And there's no two ways about it. Again, they're allowed to, here in Calgary, they're allowed to drive the streets of Northeast Calgary in, 20, 30 car parades waving Palestinian and Hamas flags. They're allowed to do that. The police actually provide chaperone and protection because it's their freedom of speech. But if you're a Christian and you preach Bible verses on the street, well, you'll get arrested. You can get deplatformed. If you're a public official, you'll get fired. We're living in an upside down world, folks. So I was hoping that we could end the year with some positivity, but it seems to me that what we're experiencing and what's coming our way is far more important. So I want to urge my listeners to get yourself ready, stand your ground, and fight like hell, man, because it's literally it's our culture that's on the line. My friends that I was talking to in Germany today, they said that 127,000 Germans have not fled, but packed up and left Germany. So that just means that there's 127,000 less people of that culture and of that area in order to fight and stand up for their culture, right? So it just makes it easier for these Pajeets to slither in with their oily hides and fucking take over. And that's what they're saying that they're going to do. I mean, Michigan, same thing. Michigan the other day has declared itself the first Islamic state in the United States. Dearborn, Michigan, prayer 5 times a day. This is America, folks, that we're talking about. Okay, this isn't some fucking dirt hole in the Middle East somewhere. This is in the United States of America, Dearborn, Michigan. They have Islamic prayer 5 times a day, blasting over the speakers, and the native Dearbornians, or whatever the fuck you want to call them, they're basically told, yeah, go fuck yourself because you guys are Islamophobes if you don't like that. So at 5 o'clock in the morning, they get woken up every day with, this kind of bullshit. And it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that this is happening in the United States. In the United States, Texas, they're building one of the biggest mosques in North America, in Texas. And I have lots of friends in Texas, and I'm just wondering, like, what the fuck are you guys doing, man? You guys are, you guys have always been heralded as the wild, wild west of the United States, man. I'm hoping that you guys are, in the backwoods or in the back sheds, and you guys are like, getting ready for the big day, if you know what I mean, for open season, because that's what it's going to take. We need to send these people packing. And again, let me reiterate, like, not all the Muslims are bad. Not all the Muslims are terrorists. Not all the Muslims want to kill us and want to end our culture. But if you've been watching the news and keeping your eyes peeled, you'll see that the majority of the refugees that have been pouring into Western countries, because they're not pouring into Egypt and they're not pouring into Saudi Arabia, they're not pouring into Muslim countries. Like, you would think that Muslims, if they're all about their religion and being Muslim, that they, or at least a good portion of them would filter into Muslim countries. No, it's not happening like that, folks. They're going everywhere but the Muslim countries. Anybody with half a brain can read that as they're coming to invade. They're coming to take over, and slowly but surely they're taking over. Here in Canada, Montreal and Toronto, they're basically taking over. When hundreds of them march through the streets and then set up prayer shop on the property of a Catholic church, and then harass people going in and out of the church, we have a fucking problem. And when the police are there playing chaperone for these people and not defending, the native citizens of Toronto and Montreal, we got a problem. And I think that our government and these law enforcement entities, if those are their marching orders, that's what they're supposed to do, I think that we have to consider these people the enemy as well. And my question, as it's been on the last episode and the episode before that and the episode before that, is how much fucking longer are we going to put up with this bullshit until we finally do something about it? I am thankful that I'm living in Alberta, although we do have our share of fuckwits here in Alberta that are going to make the job a lot more difficult of what we have to do in order to take care of this. We still have people that want to vote Naheed Nenshi, that filthy sodomite. They want to vote him in. When he was the mayor of Calgary, he doubled property taxes. He made himself the highest paid mayor in Canada. He spent millions and millions of dollars on bullshit fucking city art that is absolutely abhorrently ugly. And nobody really likes it, but he didn't give a fuck because he's like a dictator. He's like a mini dictator. He was friends with Trudeau, and he's a globalist WEF puppet. Woke agenda. He's like fighting tooth and nail because our premier has taken, for lack of a better word, pornographic material out of elementary schools and junior high schools that was there for the kids' consumption. And he has taken umbrage to that, him and his followers and his cabal of deviants that are running the NDP party. So here we are, folks, at the end of 2025. I think this is the first time in my 57 years of wreaking havoc upon this earth that I've ever been, I don't want to say trepidatious about the next, the new year, if you will, 2026 in this case, but I'm actually, I don't want to say I'm fearful, because I'm really not scared of much, but I'm certainly concerned about what 2026 has in store for us, because let me tell you, the UN, the World Health Organization, the World Economic Fund or Forum, our liberal government, the state of Israel, everybody's beating the war drum, man, and I think that they're beating it so hard because they're scared. They see a revolution rising. I've seen it with my own eyes here where I'm living in Alberta. The movement closer to God and Christianity is unlike anything that I've seen in my lifetime, and I've lived here a long, long time. Me, myself, I have wonderful people in my life, both here in my immediate vicinity, as well as some online friends that are, kind of not coaxing me along, but helping me along on my journey to become closer to God. I've been, reading Bible verses daily. I'm going to spend my Christmas Eve rather than drunk and getting crazy. I'll probably still do that, but I'm going to start my Christmas Eve. I'm going to go to church. I'm going to go to Mass. My wife and I were going to attend Mass. This is the first time that I've been in church where it hasn't been someone's funeral or someone's wedding or my baptism. Folks, anybody that's been my friend for any given time knows how anti-organized religion I've been for pretty much all of my life. And for me to be attending church, that's a monumental thing, man. It's a monumental thing for me. But it's like I've said in numerous episodes that I've recorded, is I think that we are in a very dark place and we are fighting the powers of evil. We are literally in a battle between good and evil everywhere that you look. From America is pretty much owned by the Jews at this point. Netanyahu was on the rampage yesterday saying that America better start acting now against fighting anti-Semitism, for the Jews all across the world, if they know what's good for them. I heard a story where, because everybody was up Trump's ass for going to bomb Iran, I heard a story from a reliable source that Netanyahu actually said that if Trump didn't intervene and bomb Iran, that they were going to nuke him. Surprise, surprise. The chosen people that have never had to, have inspectors look at their nuclear program. Everybody kind of wink knows that they got nukes, but they've never really disclosed how many nukes that they have. So basically they just let the cat out of the fucking bag by saying, hey man, Trump, if you don't take care of Iran for us, we're just going to nuke them. So that's what's going on in the world, folks. And the time of being complacent and laid back is, I've said this again in episodes before, so I apologize if I sound like a fucking broken record, man, but the time for complacency is over, man. It's time to lace up your boots, put your big girl panties on, and we need to start banding together and come out swinging. They're fucking burning Christmas trees at malls. There's like video footage. They're harassing Jewish people at Hanukkah events. And again, I'm no fan of the state of Israel. Does that make me an anti-Semite? According to them, it does. But at the same time, I can also admit that I don't have to like Hamas or the Islamists And at the same time, I don't have to like what the state of Israel and the Jewish people are doing either. You know, it doesn't have to be a black and white situation. It doesn't have to be one thing or the other. But what I do know in both these instances, in both these groups, whether it's the Jews or whether it's the Islamists, the one common denominator between both of them is both of them don't have Jesus Christ in their vernacular. Okay, the Jews, they basically think that Jesus Christ is burning in hell. And, you know, the Islamists, they think that a guy that marries 9-year-old girls is their god of choice. So that kind of gives you an inclining as to why the trans community and the woke ideology kind of rallies around these groups as well, is because they clearly don't have Jesus Christ in their life either. They're godless heathens, and, you know, it's time for Crusades 2.0. So anyway, folks, I'm going to end it at that. I want you guys all to, love one another. And I'm talking about, like, not humanity in general. I'm talking about your circle, your people, my people. We have to stand shoulder to shoulder, arm in arm. And that's how we're going to beat this fucking horde of monsters that have been unleashed. I can't say unbeknownst to us because we've seen it coming, but, we're polite people and we've been gaslit all our lives into, we're good Christians. We should just live and let live and live and let be and turn the other cheek and all this other fucking bullshit that we've been told all our lives. And I think it's high time that we go arm in arm, shoulder to shoulder, and show these heathens why they've been living on fucking dirt farms for the past 3,000 years. Anyway, folks, I want to say thank you for all your support that you've given me since I've launched this thing. It's the craziest thing that I actually did launch this thing. I'm glad that I did. It's kind of cathartic for me to be able to come on here like once a week and rant and rave and get it off my chest. It probably keeps me out of the clock tower. Being serious, too. It probably keeps me out of the clock tower, so I do appreciate all of your guys' support. If you want to write to me over the holidays and stuff, you can reach me at beastbellymedia@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. If you got any episode ideas, or just tell me your thoughts, your thoughts and your concerns. Are you with me on this? Are you like, I'm kind of with you on this, but this you're kind of way off base on? Listen, man, I love to interact with you guys, and I love all the dialogue back and forth, right? So communication has always been one of the paramount things as to why I launched this thing. We have to be able to talk. I don't want to tell you how to think, but I want to be an optometrist. I want to get you to see things a little better. And, I have friends all over the world, and I talk to them regularly. And this isn't just a thing that you're going through wherever you are, or that I'm going through wherever I am. This is a thing that is happening to all of us on a global scale. It's happening everywhere. So, again, folks, where's my drink? I want to wish you guys a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I hope Santa is good to you. Go to church, say your prayers, and be ready for anything. Stay vigilant. Yeah, folks, we will see you in the new year. Let's all pray real hard that 2026 is exponentially better than the shit that we've been going through this year. So, again, thanks for your support. Like and subscribe somewhere down below. And we will see you in the new year. Be safe out there. Don't drink and drive. And keep your eyes peeled, man. The darkness is all around us. And we need to keep our eyes open. Anyway, thank you for all of your support that you've given me since I've launched this, man. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys so much. And we will see you in 2026. See ya. Take care, everybody.